You know, biggest thing is they start to say the same thing, just say, hey.
We should.
Please don't say it.
Sharing the screen.
And
don't.
limit, we gotta.
Where now?
It's
gonna be a while.
Yeah. Ask Jim, I think it was 2 minutes.
You never know how.
Well, God, Snow Canyon's wrestling at home tonight. I want to try and make it 7:30, but I think you go to noon. Unless we can keep this short.
I wish. And I've heard of them. Yeah, like, actually, Virginia, they had a start time and a finish time, like it didn't come down. If they didn't get ran out of time, they were just all they got to finish the next week.
It's just table it.
Sorry. When we have a big one, like,
What'd you say?
we can go ahead and start.
Okay, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission for Santa Clara City for December 15th, 2022. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Curtis Whitehead. Please join him.
Please rise. Repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible.
Maybe you should let him know if he calls.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we humbly bow our head before Thee this beautiful Thursday evening. We're indeed grateful for the blessing it is to live in Santa Clara City and the friends and neighbors and hometown feeling that we share. We're grateful for this opportunity tonight as we open this planning commission to be able to discuss some items of business and how to keep our community a community and how to grow it in a manner that works best for everybody. Please help us this evening that we'll be able to discuss those items in a friendly matter and business matter, that it'll be able to make sense to those that have put their presentations together. Again, we're grateful for the blessing it is to live in this community, in this great nation where we're able to worship and do those things in a manner which we please. We love Thee, Father, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Curtis.
Chair
Well, for
Weston,
being here
I
tonight.
just wanted to let you know that James' call is on via Zoom, Commissioner call.
On
Yeah.
Commissioner Call. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you to staff for putting this together for us tonight. We will just follow this agenda tonight. We're all the way down to number 3. Is there anyone here that has anything to say about anything that is not on the agenda? Now's the time. Going once. Okay. Move on. Let's go straight into this public hearing then, shall we? Jim, you want to
I will.
clue us in on
Um,
this?
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and start. Thank you, Chair Weston. This is a public hearing. It's an application for a general plan amendment. The applicant is Andy Bentley. I don't believe he's with us tonight, but his representative, Jared Bates with Rosenberg Engineering, is here and will address the commission shortly. He's requesting a general plan amendment. I'm going to pull the property map up here so everyone can see. I think that everyone can see that. He's requesting a general plan amendment for property at approximately 2900 Pioneer Parkway, known as otherwise parcel SC-SB-103-B-N-1. It's approximately 7.94 acres in size. The current general plan identifies the property as open space. And the applicant would like to amend the general plan from open space to medium density residential on 5.3 acres of property. So that's not all of the property. If you look at the overhead, you can see the 2 purple areas, one of which has a concept layout of some townhomes on it. And then the other piece to the west does not have a layout, but you see some other property there. And then you see kind of the open space area that's proposed to remain. It's 2.56 acres. So that would stay in the open space, with the other 5.38 being considered as medium density residential. And so I've gone through that. The different acreages. So the one that shows the townhome layouts about 3.65. The other area to the west is 1.73. And then the open space is the 2.56. In whole, it's just under 8 acres. One of the things about our general plan is there's quite a range in dwelling units for the different types of land use designations. In the case of the MDR designation or medium density residential, it allows for a range from 3 to 12 units. So that's quite a range, 3 to 12 units per acre. The low density residential designation has a range of 2 to 4 units per acre. Previously, city staff had asked the applicant to consider a low density residential if anything were to be allowed on the site, and the applicant elected to proceed with this medium density residential application instead. As you can tell, we do have some neighborhood response. We have some residents that are here this evening. I wanted to remind you that an email was sent out to each of the planning commission members yesterday afternoon from Patrice Hunt, who's a resident at 2859 Canyon View Drive. And her husband are currently serving a full-time LDS mission and can't be here, but you are in possession of that email, planning commission, about her concerns and the history of the area as far as why it's open space and some of the things that have happened to her while riding horses in the area. So you do have that information. We did send notices as required by state code to property owners within 300 feet of any point of the property. We probably have owners beyond those limits, but we also posted the property with a banner. So we have new 4x8 banners that we put up 2 weeks prior to the public hearing. And then the week prior, a week ago today, we put the QR code up, and that allows for them to scan and access the packet, the report, and the information that the planning commission has. So in an era of transparency, that's the city doing our part to get the word out. As you can tell, I think we did a pretty good job getting the word out. We have quite a few folks here tonight. I want to go through the general plan and what it states for property and open space, and then what's actually required and what some of the policies are as per the general plan. As you know, is currently designated as open space. And the open space, it says, includes permanent natural open space, as well as limited passive recreation, such as golf courses and trails. The open space designation is applied to most sensitive lands. And then section 9.3 of the general plan includes the preservation of sensitive lands and habitats, and it states the following. Natural features such as floodplains and dry washes are important to the drainage and protection of health and property. These features are both opportunities and constraints. They can easily be compromised by typical development practices, but if avoided and protected, they can reduce the cost of infrastructure and contribute to Santa Clara's distinctive character and appeal. And then we have policy 9.5 in support of 9.3 above, and it states that new development will avoid or mitigate impacts on all sensitive lands. The next item we have is section 9.34 of the general plan. It includes languages regarding dry washes and states the following. Dry washes run through the city in a northwest to southeast direction, although dry washes most of the time, these drainage ways are important for conveying the large amounts of water that result from the sudden intense storms characteristic of our local desert conditions. They also provide valuable wildlife habitat and are often attractive for hiking. And then we have policy 9.8, which just supports the section I stated. And it says that dry washes are to be protected in a natural state for floodways, wildlife habitat, and passive recreation, such as hiking trails. And we have another item in the general plan, section 9.3.5 includes language regarding expansive clay soils, which we know we have a lot of here. It states, while there are a variety of soil conditions in Santa Clara, there is a layer of expansive clay that extends through much of the city. It is particularly prominent in the Heights and South Hills subareas. When these clays are subject to water through rainfall and irrigation, they expand dramatically. The resulting force can lift foundations and roadbeds. Evidence of expansive soils can be seen near the edge of the bluff on the south side of Santa Clara Heights, near the steep slopes below the bluff. And then policy 9.9, which is in support of that statement, indicates that the city requires careful engineering, design, and mitigation in areas of expansive clay soils. In these areas, clustered and attached dwelling units will be encouraged in order to reduce the per dwelling unit cost of mitigation. So that's the general plan. And then at the end of that section, we actually have sensitive land objectives provided in the general plan, and there are 6, 3 of which I've highlighted. Number 3 of 6 says maintain open space in lava, hillside, and floodplain areas. Number 5 states protect investments by avoiding development on expansive soils. And 6 says protect future homeowners by avoiding or adequately mitigating development on expansive soils. So the issues that we've identified of concern, and city staff has had a chance to discuss with city legal counsel Matt Entz, who's here sitting next to me this evening. We've identified the following concerns. So item 1, the general plan description for open space indicates that this designation is applied to most sensitive lands. Second, section 9.3 of the general plan indicates that natural features such as floodplains and dry washes are important to the drainage and protection of health and property. Both can be compromised by typical development practices. Third, section 9.34 of the general plan indicates that dry washes run through the city in the northwest to southeast direction, and that these drainage ways are important for conveying large amounts of water that result from sudden intense storm characteristics of our local desert condition. 4, section 935 discusses expansive clay soils and indicates that there's a layer of expansive clay that extends through much of the city. This is prominent in the Heights and South Hills subareas. 5th, city staff has requested that the project applicant submit a soils report for the subject property. However, the applicant has been unwilling to do so. The applicant has stated that a soils report is not required for a general plan amendment. A complete soils report would allow for city staff and the project engineer to determine what type of density and our project could be constructed on the property. The soils report may also help city staff and the project engineer determine if portions of the site are undevelopable or require special mitigation for sensitive land conditions. And 6, additional information is needed to protect the health, safety, and welfare of future residents. As far as the state code considerations go, we've noticed it. We've put the sign up. We've met all the state code requirements for a general plan amendment and what's required for a public hearing. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend denial of the proposed general plan amendment to the City Council for the property located at 2900 Pioneer Parkway. And I'll state it again, parcel SC-SB-103-B-N-1, 7.94 acres, subject to the findings. And they're outlined in the staff report. And my 6 findings match our staff concerns that I just addressed. So I don't want to go through those again. I want to be thorough because we have a large group here tonight. And I wanted to let the group know and understand there's 2 processes here that would be required to rezone such a property. The applicant at this time, and his representative can speak to it, has elected to submit a general plan amendment. That's amending the general plan land use map. And so that shows this area as open space. The applicant would also be required to rezone the property on the city's zoning map. It's currently R110, which is what most of your properties are zoned, single family residential, 10,000 minimum square foot lots, roughly 3 units per acre when you put the roads and utilities in. So that's another process. So this is actually not a rezoning application. It's a general plan amendment application, but they're together. In this case, the applicants decided to split, to do one first and try to do another one later. Sometimes we review them concurrently. Sometimes they elect to do one process and then come back later for a separate process. It's up to the applicant. So tonight, this is a general plan amendment public hearing, not a rezoning. So I'll just leave it at that. And thank you, Chair Weston. I believe that Jared Bates is here on behalf of the applicant. If you want to talk to him before the public hearing. So.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Mr. Bates, do you have anything to add on this one? I'm sure you'll have some time after the public hearing too, but you can take your time now.
I can stick out.
Okay, whatever you prefer.
Well, let me just, there's a couple, sorry. Just a couple of points that my client wanted me just to present to you guys. So he's not necessarily a developer. He owns the property and would like a place down here to come stay when he's down here to visit. They looked at the idea of the low density residential, but it just to pencil out to make it work. It's not really appropriate for single family because of its location along Pioneer and some of the constraints we've talked about as far as the floodplain and, the erosion of the soil. So the medium density townhomes seems to be the best fit for the area. Again, I think the only concern we really had with the city as far as the denial of approval for this application was difference between medium density residential and low density residential. Basically, he was concerned that if we went to low density residential, then there'd be some confusion as to being able to place townhomes. That was the main concern, not the issue with the density, but saying, hey, if I say it's low density residential, there's gonna be confusion as to if I can build, a townhome here instead of a single family home. And then as far as the soils report goes, just main concerns with, we've had to put together a layout even to get to this point. He's had to pay me a bunch of money to come figure out a bunch of stuff. And so he's like, his concern was, hey, I don't want to get this far into this, invest this much money to this point to not even have a general plan. That was the only, they would obviously do a soils report at some point in the future. We've done the layout work. So I've looked at the erosion aspects as well as floodplain, those sorts of things too. So pretty straightforward.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to open this public hearing. Got a few rules for you. Number one, try to keep your comments under 2 minutes if you can, unless you have a speaker that is speaking for a group of people, and then they can get 5 or so. Also, if somebody has already made the point that you want to make, probably just leave that one alone. And that way we don't take up all night and we can get through this quickly. So at this point, do we have anybody that would like to make any comments on this? Go ahead and step to the mic. You're going to need to say your name and the address where you live.
Yes, my name's Leslie Benson. I live at 1866 North Red Mountain Drive. So north of where this is being proposed. And I do have a petition to submit that is voicing the Santa Clara residents' objections to an amendment to this general plan that I would like to hand to Selena. And at the point right before we left, had 150 signatures, and we just started it yesterday afternoon. Thank you. There's a copy for Mark too. Okay, so I just have a few comments I wanted to make. We have several objections to this amendment to the general plan. And one is primarily just emotional. Most of the people, when we came here and we bought for this small town feel. We bought for the beauty of the area and recreation, beautiful lava beds. And a lot of us are feeling kind of like that's changing a great deal, and we're unhappy with the changes that we've been seeing with the lava beds being destroyed, with all the vacation homes being built, and now all the townhomes being built. It wasn't what we envisioned. It's not what Santa Clara's general plan states. In the actual general plan, it says that you have a goal of remaining a vibrant, active, and gracious small town community. And that's the kind of community we all want to live in still. A second objection that we have to this is that it's incompatible with sound development principles. So you shouldn't change the general plan in order to allow housing to be built in areas that are prone to flooding. And I know that the Tuacahn Wash was diverted, so it's no longer a convergence of 2 flood zones, but it is still listed after the Lomar, which is just a letter of map revision that was sent to FEMA. And so that was in, let me find the date, 12/13/19. Lomar's map. So the map, FEMA's map of the area still designates it as a regulatory floodway. And if anyone questions that, on Sunday night we had rain, and then I went and walked the wash Monday morning and videoed the entire wash. There were areas of at least 35 feet across of a running stream. And my husband also videoed a drone video of the whole wash. So if any of you guys are interested in that video, I'd be happy to forward it to you. We have in the past experienced homes in Santa Clara that were built next to washes, and caved in and lost the possessions within. So I think we all recognize the risks of building in places that really aren't appropriate for homes. Our third concern is just that zoning, and I know this is a general plan amendment, but it will lead to the zoning amendment if or zoning change if it is approved. Is that zoning is the purpose of zoning is to make areas adjacent to each other be appropriately zoned, and the whole surrounding area is zoned single family residence. So we feel what's appropriate is to keep that as if it were to be developed in a way that it could be made safe to build on, which I'm not sure that it could. It should stay as single family residence. And then lastly, Santa Clara Heights has almost reached build out. And we just want to request that you use wisdom in what you choose to do with the end of the Santa Clara Heights land. We've already had 2 townhome developments approved, the one across from Lava Ridge and then right next to it and being built. They're huge and they're not homeowner based. They're for developers to expand their portfolios and make money. And we just don't feel like we need any more townhomes. The Pioneer Parkway, we just don't have the infrastructure for the increase in traffic that we're going to get from Black Desert Resort. I tried to clarify this with Manning, and he hasn't gotten back to me, but the Ivans group that's been interacting with him said they're projecting 800,000 visitors a year to Black Desert Resort, and it's all going to feed down Snow Canyon Parkway and Pioneer Parkway. And Pioneer Parkway goes by, from Rachel to Pioneer Parkway goes by 2 schools. And then Pioneer Parkway goes by a 3rd school. So I have a big concern with safety of children with that. And then there's also the senior living complex that's being built right off Pioneer Parkway. So there's a lot of increased traffic already in the pipe works for this. So one, I would just like to say thank you for the bigger sign, letting us know about the public hearing. We appreciate that change and have noted it and really appreciate it. And I'm also appreciative that the city employees are recommending against this proposed change for all the reasons that Mr. McNulty specified. And we would just like to also say, would urge you to not recommend this change to the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
I'm Gary Zabriskie and I live at 2941 Dutchman Drive up on the Heights. And just as a disclaimer, for 4 years, I was a city planner for Washington City. I'm a professional land use planner with an urban planning degree and have been doing this for 30 years. And I compliment and have empathy for your city planner. It's sometimes it's a thankless job, but it's a very valuable job. And I know that a petition was passed, and I'm also, I'll just state out front, I'm opposed to this project, but not because of emotional reasons, but because the general plan means something to a community. And the general plan was adopted, my understanding, 2014, it was amended 2017, it's been amended. But the concern I have is it's stated, as it was put in by the staff recommendations, that it was open space for a reason. And to change it without a justifiable reason to do so isn't a valid reason. We just completed at my office, I work for the 5 County Association of Governments, and we worked with every community in our region to do a 5-year update of the FEMA Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. And it identified this as being in a floodplain, the area in there. And one of the policies that the city adopted in that plan was flood policy 2 is to conserve vulnerable areas and sensitive lands. One of the actions would be to acquire identified property most vulnerable to flooding along washes in the Santa Clara River. And this would be ongoing, and it would use either Santa Clara City funds or Flood Control Authority funds, with Santa Clara being the responsible entity. This property was purchased by this LABAA on May 17th of this year. That general plan was in place. This was open space. That person purchased it with that knowledge. So my recommendation and what I would like to see is that the general plan be followed. It said permanent open space. That is an area that could have some uses to it. It doesn't forestall that person doing something. They could come in and put some kind of a recreational thing, maybe a triathlon training area or something that would be compatible with that. It doesn't take all value of that property away. But I did look at the taxable assessed value of that, and the assessed value for 2022 was $199,200, and the taxes for 2022 was $1,447.39. That's so petitions for what that might be. That says that there's some concern here, which I understand. We never would accept those at the Planning Commission in Washington City because it was considered public clamor. But what we looked for was comments that said, this is why we don't think it's appropriate in the area. And my comment is that it's not in compliance with the general plan. Either look at the whole general plan or not, you know, and if we're going to preserve some places in town, but not others, then you're getting to be arbitrary. So I would just recommend that that be done. The other final comment, and this is a statement of this, why is the developer or the owner of the property not here? If this is so important, why are they not here at the Planning Commission? That's something that we always instilled with our Planning Commission. There is, you have the leverage of if not taking action on something or taking action on something, but if they're not there, I don't think a representative in this case is the same as having the owner there to justify his request here on that. And to change the general plan just for a financial reason, you've given an offer of, or not an offer, but one of the comments was made that perhaps come in with a low density residential, which might be compatible with the area up there. If there wasn't the floodplain issues, that would be something that you could consider. But medium density residential doesn't match with what the general plan is. And that's the only comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Eric Holtrip. I'm a local physician. I own my Team MD. I live on 1838 Red Mountain. I also want to thank you for the signs. That was wonderful. You know, we did get something at home, but the signage did help. Just a general, you know, the thought of this piece of land is it's kind of a natural space, a natural break. When you talk to anybody who drives out here and they're driving along Pioneer, they talk about before they get out to the supermarket, this beautiful open space. And people smarter than me came up with this for a reason. And yeah, there's technical reasons, like place is going to wash out. So that's why my house is way up on the side of a hill, but still it's a natural space. It's a beautiful space. We do have that $500 million resort right next door. But when you talk to Patrick, he has that place buried beneath the lava. You can't see any of the buildings. He's pulled out a number of houses, you know, to try and preserve some of that. Same things happening in Kayenta. When you talk to Mr. Martin out there, he has a natural space, a natural break. When you drive out there, there's always going to be open land. That farm, he owns it, is never going to go away. That open land is never going to go away. And that's part of his plan. It's a nice natural break. So to see that go away is, that's, you know, it doesn't really sit too well with me. I also have, it was brought up also, it seems like poor business to not be here to defend yourself, to say, I want to build a house here, but medium density, that's good. And I'm going to have some townhomes. Like, hold on, what? You're throwing this all around. Clearly, buy the land cheap, you want to build on it, get this all changed out, and then make a bunch of money. I'm fine with making money, but I think we have better areas we can do that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chair Weston, can I just make one quick comment?
You may.
A couple of comments have been made about the applicant not being here, and I think in fairness to the applicant, I probably ought to say something about that. This meeting was originally planned for a different date, and the applicant was planning to attend on that date. And when he learned that this was happening tonight, he had a conflict that he communicated to me couldn't be resolved. And so, he has his representative here to say more than that if desired, but I did want to just, in fairness to him, say that he spoke to me about it. He was concerned that he couldn't be here. So for what it's worth.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? We got it covered. All right, then, do we have any, Selena, do we have any comments online that we need to?
The public comments here.
Okay, great. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it back to the commission here. And you guys have any questions or issues you'd like to ask about, talk about, discuss? I'm sure Mr. Bates would be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a map of the overall general plan, not just the zoomed in part? Just the one in the back there? I was trying to get, the city used to have it online, but it wasn't working today. So I was trying to
It's
look
down
at it.
today.
And we're actually
You
having a
notice.
problem with Zoom right now. You can see the prompt. So we're working with the city manager to come in and fix that because we just changed our license recently and upgraded, and it's telling us the meeting's going to shut down. So give us a minute, but I can't get into anything right now.
I studied it pretty good, Logan. You got questions?
I can, is it, I do have questions for Mr. Bates, I guess.
Okay. Step on up.
I'm just wondering, I know it's the wash that's going down the middle, but why is it like in three separate pieces that you're trying to get? So the one in the north,
Sorry, can you clear the screen of the messages? I can't answer your question. Are you asking why you've got like?
why like the northeast piece, the northwest piece? Why go across, try to get across the wash? That seems expensive and.
Yeah, I spoke with the applicant, and the design and looked at the option and, they felt like if they could put a crossing there, you've got 8 units there, just an option that was there. Otherwise, you could only develop like less than a third of the property. And then the open spaces is what's in the wash and the 100-year floodplain and the floodway now. So, and then the piece to the northwest would be for future development, because that is a place that's not in the floodplain, so.
There were some questions about the floodplain. Would you be willing to kind of explain I guess you can't see it, but your graphic shows floodplain on it, correct?
Yeah, so the dark blue line that's solid is the 100-year floodplain. The dashed blue line is the floodway. And if you'll notice, none of the residential developments within that area. So that was the intent. And it's not, we didn't talk about it very much in the presentation, but there's room between the residential development to put like rock riprap erosion protection to protect those homes from erosion damage. So that's been taken into consideration with this plan too. So those are all carefully thought about with the layout and where things are at. So.
But the erosion protection doesn't provide for the clay problems that go on behind it.
No, what you do is basically you'd have, if there is a clay, we're all assuming there's a clay problem. I mean, I think on the south side it's likely. On the north side, you're looking at probably sand. So you're likely either going to do some piers or you'll come in and over-X the clay and put better material in. That happens all the time around town. So pretty common.
Anything else? Okay. This side?
Hey, Mark, can I make a comment?
Yes, please, James.
So I've been on the planning commission for a few years, and I have this basic philosophy about changes to the general plan and or zoning changes. And it basically boils down to the idea that generally the neighbors and the citizens need to be on board to do that. And I think of the example that the lot across the street from my home was for sale for many years. And I thought, what if somebody bought that and put a 7-Eleven there and got the zone changed, or, you know, changed the general plan for that lot or whatever that would be required? Unless all the neighbors were together and we all petitioned the city to allow them to put a 7-Eleven or make that a commercial piece of property, it just wouldn't be right. And we've talked about this with some other people in the South Hills and things like that. I just think that in order to do something dramatic like this, you have to have a consensus from the community that this is a great thing. We all think that it would be wonderful to put a bunch of townhouses on this open space, and that would be the best thing for Santa Clara. Then I think that would be something important for us as a planning commission to consider. On the other hand, if everybody's violently opposed to it, I think that's the first step for